What's up, Kansas City? This is your girl Linda with It's My Home KC, and today we have a really interesting person in the studio. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit more about It's My Home KC. It's My Home KC is all about the local community. We want to grow our local community. We want to inspire our local community. We bring people to the studio so that they can tell us about their life experiences, and we hope that it might inspire someone somewhere to be able to move out of their comfort zone and grow. And so, yeah, today in the studio we have Cleo. Welcome to the studio,
Hi,
Cleo.
thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I know it's been a while, but tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, well, I'm a single mom of two, and I have my own business as well as I work a 9 to 5, and I'm about to take on just another part-time job here in the next couple weeks.
Wow. Superwoman. So, you're a mom of two.
Yes.
You own a business.
Yes.
You're a speaker.
Yes.
You have a 9 to 5.
Yes.
And you want to take on another part time. Okay, I think I'm not doing enough.
You're probably you're doing just fine.
And so tell us, what was it like for you growing up?
It was very difficult. I grew up in a single parent household. My dad was around, but he lived somewhere else. And so it was difficult to see her work and struggle. She also worked multiple jobs. She was always very tired. And through that, it taught me to be a hard worker, but also taught me to be very independent. So at a very early age, I was probably cooking by 8, doing my own laundry for my family, take it all to laundromat. And my sister would wait and we would just do everybody's clothes. And it was definitely a struggle at times. Sometimes we didn't have lights on. Sometimes we didn't have food. But she tried and she always made it work. And here I am today as also a single mother making it work. So do what you got to do.
So did you grow up in Kansas City?
I would say I grew up all over. To be honest, it's I would say more so natively. I'm like from Las Vegas because that's my home. That's my bread and butter. that's me.
We're not gonna talk about the 49ers. Okay.
I'll leave that alone. I actually like Green Bay. Ironically enough, I'm a Green Bay girl. But it's a different lifestyle being in the Midwest compared to like my family being from the East Coast and then me living on the West Coast and then here I am in the Midwest. But I do feel like the Midwest is better to raise my kids just because it's a slower paced, easier environment. It's not the hustle and bustle. It's not up all hours of the night. And so I do have my some of my family members here, so it's easier sometimes to allow them to be closer to family because I didn't have any family on the West Coast, so I was out there by myself.
Oh. So when did you move back to KC?
It was in 2012. It was actually a visit because I wasn't planning on staying here. My first marriage was abusive, and so he ended up going to work, and I just left. And I stayed with a friend of mine in California for a couple of months, and then I came to Kansas to visit, and I kind of just got stuck, and I didn't end up going back.
The Kansas City juju.
Right. So I was like, okay, so I guess it worked out for the best.
I know one of the biggest things that you do as a speaker is trying to help people heal and grow. And you talk about your first husband being abusive. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I got married very early in life. Right out of college is where I met him, and there was red flags even before we got married. I just didn't have the self-esteem, and then also growing up being molested and raped multiple times as a child, my idea of what a man is wasn't there. So I was used to the toxicity, I was used to the arguing, I was used to the violence. So to me that was normal. And so one day I woke up and I'm like, this isn't normal. I'm like, we're gonna kill each other. And it's scary to be in that position and then wonder how you're going to get out of it. And I have a really good friend. Her name is Amanda. And I had called her and I was like, I'm not going to work today. I need you to come pick me up. And she was like, if you're really ready to leave him, she's like, I'm not bringing you back. I said, I'm ready to leave. So she gathered up all my stuff. We put them in big trash bags. And from there, I started my healing process. I was terrified. I was shaking. I was nauseous. Because I was like, what happens if he finds me? What happens if he drags me off this bus and everything. And like it was even to the point like he'd be abusive to our dog. We had a
Mhm.
husky, and like he would beat her, choke her, and everything. And so it just wasn't a safe environment. And so I like to express to women that, or even men, because men can be abused as well. But it's like when you grew up in that environment and then you get into a relationship like that, you're just kind of mentally stuck in that environment, and you
Mhm.
think this is normal, this is just how it is. But then your self-esteem is also low, so it's like you don't really try, you just kind of just settle for everything. And then I realized like, no, this is not it, this is
Mhm.
not how I want to live my life. And I was young, I was in my early 20s
Mhm.
when I started realizing like either I was going to leave him or I was going to die there. I
Mhm.
didn't think I was going to live.
Okay.
So yeah,
So how did you meet this person?
I met him in college.
Mhm.
He was cute to me. He was quiet, ironically.
Mhm.
He didn't talk to not one person, and I would always
Mhm.
see him in the library.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I want to talk to him.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how that started. He's cute.
And what is the symptoms that got you to the point to where you're like, okay, I'm ready to leave this?
I would say it was actually very early on. In the
Mhm.
beginning, we lived with his family, and so
Mhm.
I could tolerate it a little
Mhm.
bit more because I felt like I had a little bit more support.
Mhm.
And his younger brother, his youngest brother, and I got really, really close.
Mhm.
And it helped me because we liked the same music. He would show me how to play video games. Like, he kind of became my friend.
Mhm.
And so once he and my ex-husband and I moved into our own place, it became more isolating.
Mhm.
I couldn't go outside. I couldn't have friends. He would monitor my phone calls. Like, I couldn't do anything.
Mhm.
And so there were moments where I would just like drive around Vegas. Like, well, at the time he took my car, so I had to like take the bus. But like, I would just be on the bus and I would just listen to my headphones. And I would just watch people and watch couples. And I'd be on the Las Vegas Strip, and I worked at the fashion shows, and I would just see how people were smiling and enjoying life.
Mhm.
And I wasn't.
Mhm.
I shouldn't be in my 20s not enjoying life. At the time, I had no children,
Mhm.
and I'm like, what kind of life is this?
Mhm.
And then I did try to make things work with him because it obviously takes two to tango, but
Mhm.
there was never any kind of argument or anything that would cause someone to become physically violent,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Whether you guys agreed or disagreed, there's no reason to put your hands on someone just because you disagree with them.
Mhm.
And so for me, I think one of my breaking points was I tried to commit suicide, and I would stop eating and I would just try to slowly kind of just pass away
Mhm.
versus like wanting to shoot myself or something like that. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't want to harm myself that way. I just
Mhm.
wanted the pain to stop, and I didn't know how
Mhm.
to get out of that relationship.
Mhm.
So when I was in the hospital, they had me under suicide watch. And
Mhm.
in that part of the hospital, they also had him in the room with me.
Mhm.
He wouldn't let them talk to me privately or anything like that. So I'm like, how can I tell them I'm in this bad situation? And that's when I learned I really have to get the strength myself.
Mhm.
Because in those situations, sometimes you really can't reach out to someone and explain to them what's going on. And I confided in my coworker,
Mhm.
Amanda,
Mhm.
and she would notice the shift in me when I would get up at 5, but she noticed at 4 o'clock I would start to get depressed. I would start getting
Mhm.
angry. I'd like my whole mood would change.
Mhm.
We never ate at home. He worked at Jack in the Box, and that was the food that we ate.
Mhm.
So there wasn't really anything for me to eat unless I bought it.
Mhm.
So it was easy for me to manage my stress by not eating
Mhm.
because I felt like I needed to control something.
Mhm.
So I just naturally didn't eat. And so it's
Mhm.
just like, it was just a gradual progression of just my life going down with just different things. So a lot of times to the outside world, I appeared okay
Mhm.
because I didn't want people to see how
Mhm.
broken I was. And I felt like the things he would say about me were true. Like, if I wanted to go with my girlfriends, or if I wanted to wear makeup, or if I wanted to wear a dress, he would call me excuse my language, a bitch, or as a
Mhm.
whore, or as a slut because I wanted to be cute and
Mhm.
things like that. And so I'm just like, Vegas has a plethora of
Mhm.
different types of people.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to be the Vegas girl. I just
Mhm.
wanted to be cute, and I was in my 20s. Like, I want to have fun.
Mhm.
That was not his thing. He was
Mhm.
literally into playing video games, and I could not touch his system. He had an Xbox. I
Mm-hmm.
was not allowed to touch it.
Mm-mm.
The TV was mine, but because it was hooked to his Xbox, I couldn't touch it.
Oh
And if when I
no.
did touch it, it caused a problem.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh my God, that is terrible. And did you ever talk to anybody about it within your family or something like that?
I did, but they didn't understand. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would tell my parents were fighting, but to them, I they now after talking with them, they thought we were more like a verbal argument. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
know like that we would physically get into it.
And if there's somebody that is in that situation right now, what would you tell them? Or what is it that would what is the biggest red flag that would make you want to run right now?
The minute somebody puts their hands on you,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. That's a wrap. There's no, in my opinion, personally,
Mm-hmm.
there is no redemption for that because nothing in this world will amount to somebody physically putting their hands on you. Nothing's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no kind of argument, disagreement that would ever cause you to have that much aggression to where you feel it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if there's anybody in that situation, I would say find that one true person that you can really confide in
Mm-hmm.
to help you get out of that. Because without Amanda, I probably would have never left him.
Mm-hmm.
I would have stayed there, and most likely, I probably would have been. I would have been dead. I would have been living.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that is probably what started your journey of healing and what do you call it?
Hope.
Yeah,
Healing ourselves and pursuing excellence.
yeah, that is what I was looking for.
Yes.
I've watched too much of your life to know that part.
Yes, yes.
But that is how you started your journey. How did you start talking about it out loud?
I stopped being ashamed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it just started even with me being a child and being molested. And I remember being raped by multiple people in one night, and it was the
I'm
most
sorry.
traumatic thing. I wouldn't wish that on a dog. Like that was scary and that was traumatic. And I would walk around so ashamed because I felt like dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I felt gross because I'm like, what is it about me that attracts these type of people?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in therapy. I'm a big advocate for therapy before
Mm-hmm.
it became the it thing. Like I've been in therapy for a long time. And it's like, you know, it took her years to kind of help me realize like I'm beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worthy.
Mm-hmm.
This was not my fault. And one of the biggest things I take that she taught me was when you're a victim,
Mm-hmm.
other predators can see that.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's easy for you to still be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I was out there looking for it, but it's like tattooed on my forehead to
Mm-hmm.
someone who's a predator. It's like she's vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
she's weak. Let's
Oh,
prey on that.
I'm sorry.
And so it's like, okay, so now that I've learned that, you know, I walk around with more confidence. I want to say I'm more aggressive in the sense that I'll speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like back then, when people knew me, like, "Oh, Cleo was quiet." I'm not quiet no more.
No, no, don't
Just
come.
like, no, I'm very different. And I teach my daughter the
Good
same
for
thing.
you. Good
Yeah,
for you.
I teach.
Mhm.
She's very vocal, and I'm
Mhm.
very proud of her. And she speaks up for herself.
Mhm.
And it's like when you're growing up and you see people doing inappropriate things or they're unfortunately doing inappropriate things to you,
Mhm.
you're confused.
Mhm.
I was very, very confused because I'm like, why is this person doing to me? Because it actually started off with relatives.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then it actually moved to what people don't really talk about as much that I've heard.
Mhm.
A lot of them actually started off as children. They were
Mhm.
like high school kids at that age. And I
Mhm.
was like probably 3 or 4 when I can remember it starting.
Oh, no.
And so as time goes up, it's like, what is my perception of men? I don't know.
Mhm.
And so it just, you know, at this point in life, I've had 2 divorces, and it just isn't showing me that I'm a failure, excuse me, but it's showing me that I still have more growing to do.
Mhm.
I'm making sure I pick the person that's able to assist me as I heal.
Mhm.
Because if there's someone that you're having a dispute with and you're taking your leave and they're pursuing you and they're chasing you like my second husband did, then I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this again. We're not doing this again. And at that point, I had 2 kids and I would shut the door and he would be banging on the door trying to get attention from me of like wanting to get his point across. And I'm like, again,
Mhm.
if I'm leaving the situation so we're not arguing this
Mhm.
aggressively,
Mhm.
then you got to sit down somewhere.
Mhm.
And so I'm just like, this is not okay. And so by me being a public speaker and sharing my story, other women have shared their stories with me.
Mhm.
And they're like, you know, that's happened to me. And oh my goodness, I get it. And Another thing that I shared in my public speaking that I was very scared to put publicly is that I was also molested by women. Normally, people think of molestation coming from a man if you're a woman. Mine actually also came from women. And so being able to come up on a stage, on a platform, and be able to speak that openly, I know that there's nothing wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask for that. That's not what I wanted. I'm a child. You're an adult,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a lot of me getting that confidence in myself and knowing like I'm not weird, I'm not gross, I'm not vile, I'm not disgusting. I am still a human being
Mm-hmm.
with unfortunate situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that and I gained back my power.
Mm-hmm.
And now my voice is bigger than ever. And so when those who have abused me look at me now, I'm like, I'm still standing.
Yeah, I'm still here.
That's right.
Take it or leave it.
Exactly. And I'm just like, you didn't break me. You may
Mm-mm.
have wounded me,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't break me.
And I'm sorry to ask you because I know this is probably some of the things that you don't want to remember, but how did you find yourself in these circumstances? Because
Mm-hmm.
as you said, there's no tattoo on your face and there's nobody, you're not out there telling people, oh, come make me
Right.
your next victim, because that is not
Right.
what you want. But how would it happen? Is it somebody in the house with you? Is it like outside or something?
The first time it happened, it was people that my mother would bring into the house. One of them that I can remember start off actually was a relative of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was awake, and like all the other kids and everybody was asleep. No grown-ups were really in the house. So this was a child,
Mm-hmm.
someone under the age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it started. And it started with me touching them inappropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of like went from there. So it's like you always know that it's wrong. It doesn't feel right, but you don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then from there, then it was like a girl. And it's like, so it's like they kind of like told each other,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, she'll do this. Like, you just got to tell her what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it spiraled with those type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the raping that I had, when it was multiple people, it was actually at a party.
Mm-hmm.
I went with 2 of my best friends, Destiny and Anna, to a party.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where they went,
Mm-hmm.
but I was left in the basement by myself. And that's where it became my hell for about 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh my God. Did they ever get arrested? Hope they did.
Mm-mm. No, honestly, I was scared and embarrassed because it's like they held me down one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what to say. And like, so when me and I caught up with my friends and we left that morning,
Mm-hmm.
I told them, I was like, my toto hurts. And they couldn't understand why I was saying it, but I couldn't express literally with words like what had just happened to me. And so all I kept telling them was like, my lady parts hurt. So that's what I called them. I was like, my lady parts hurt. And they were like, what? And I'm like, never mind. And I just kept it quiet. And I didn't say anything after that.
Oh my God, that is terrible. You're making me want to
Oh,
cry.
okay.
You know me, I'm a crybaby.
I know, me too.
And I'm a big feminist. And when I hear something like that, were you intoxicated or anything?
No, I was completely sober.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I was held down by my ankles and my wrists, so I couldn't escape. So yeah,
The people. How old were you then?
I was 15.
And what would you tell the mothers out there? Because I know that is a very scary.
It is because I have a daughter. I would honestly say teach them to speak up and teach them to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't seem right, you scream, you fight, you claw, and find a way to get out of there. And I was so broken at the time. I didn't have a voice to say stop,
Mm-hmm.
leave me alone, scream. Like I went into this disassociation and I literally froze. And with that disassociation, you don't feel anything, you don't have a reaction, and that's that. And it was just after they were done, they all left.
And they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Sad. And I know this is something that is near to my heart. Like when most victims, and it doesn't have to be a sexual abuse victim, it can be just a victim of any type. Sometimes it could be abuse in marriage or as a child or even as a man or wherever. Most of the time, there's a lot of victim blaming. right? And they said
That's
there
true.
must be something you did to ask for it. There must be something you did this. What did you do? What were you wearing? What would you say to that? Because that is probably part of the thing that holds most people from speaking up. Because when you speak, the first thing somebody would ask you will be like, "What did you do?"
Right.
Oh,
That's true.
and you're like, "Excuse you, what did you
Yeah.
do?" And I have friends of mine that have struggled with stuff, and they feel even as a victim, they still feel like they asked for it, and it's not what is right. You didn't ask for it. You're not you're not guilty of somebody else's action. You didn't ask them to do that to you. They
Right.
are who they are. And so with that, what would you tell people that have probably been victims of stuff like that?
I would say that's 100% false. And the reason why I say that is because of the issues I was having as a child. I grew up a very strong tomboy, so I would wear baggy clothes, I would wear sports bras, I'd wear the Jordans, the basketball shorts. Like I didn't dress like a female. I dressed like a stud. And so to me, that was like my deterrent of like, okay, well, if I mask myself and I don't make myself pretty, then people are going to leave me alone. And when I had my attackers and when I was at this party, I wasn't even dressed any kind of hoochified way. And that was kind of the joke as I got older and went with my younger sister to clubs. And she was like, why do you gotta dress like that? Because I wouldn't dress up. I didn't have the mini skirts on and the tank tops. Like I was not that cute girl. I was like the stud that was just standing there watching the whole room. And so I would have to say that it's not so much as like what you're wearing, but it's like that victim is just if you're unfortunately getting abused and like you said in any kind of way, it's just written on your forehead. So it's like, you know, like if you buy a car and then all of a sudden it's like you see that car everywhere you go. Like I never saw it before, but now I see it.
You're like, how many have they?
Exactly.
Very true. Very
Because
true.
I know I've run into where I thought I saw my car and I'm like, I'm about to get into somebody else's vehicle because this is not mine. And it's like that. It's like once you're, you know, unfortunately like a victim, then it's like they can spot you out so easily. I'm like, you could be wearing, you know, anything, and you're still going to get victimized. Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so terrible. Like seriously, it gives me something crazy. Yeah, and so does it has it affected you as a parent, your circumstances? Has it changed how you parent, how you do your stuff?
Oh, very much so. Because my mother, on top of me getting abused, she would beat us. Like she wasn't like crazy with it, but like if we didn't have that house clean or something, like she'll whoop us. She'll put us down. She'll whoop us, and she regrets it now, obviously. But back then she was rough. So it's like now with my kids, I didn't want that kind of pain because it wasn't a normal whooping like 1, 2, 3. Okay, get away from me. It was like she would beat us, and so it's like I don't want that for my kids. I don't like that feeling, and I don't want to hit my children to discipline them. And so it's like, so when it comes to discipline on that aspect, that I'm really big on like doing what my father did with me. It was more communication. My dad and I speak very openly. There have been embarrassing moments, but my dad was like, if you never lie to me, I can always help you. And that's what I stick by, and that's what I teach my children. I want them to have that open communication with me to where if something did happen, that they would have that confidence in me to speak up. I did it with my mother. I feared her. So I wasn't confident in telling her the people you're bringing around is doing things to me. I would just tell her, I don't like this person, I don't like that person. But she would be like, it doesn't matter. Move along. Yeah, she's like, your children should be seen, not heard. Right? So I was like, okay. But it was, you know, when I had my son first, and I was okay. I'm like, okay, it's a boy. But when I realized I had my daughter, I was not okay. I didn't connect with her until she was 9 months old. So I still like fed her, I still breastfed her, I still laid her on my chest. Me and her are very close. But it's like I was scared for her because I was like, I don't want the stuff that I went through to happen to her. So I taught her to just speak. So I'm like, if somebody does something you don't like, say something. So now I have to reel her in because now she's like, she's like on the she's like, I don't like how you're doing. Like she'll tell people what to do. She's just a boss, and I'm like, I love it, but then I'm like,
there's a moderation.
Yeah, so I was like, I gotta reel her in a little bit. But it's like with my kids, it's like I want them to have the confidence to speak up and say no. Even if it's a family member, I don't make them hug them. I don't. If they're saying I'm not comfortable with this person, I'm like, let's go, because it's like my mother didn't pay attention to those signs. She didn't pay attention to when I told her this is not a good person. She did it anyway.
Mm-mm.
And so with my kids, I will ask them, like, I'm like, are you comfortable? Or I'll pay attention. So I'm like, if they don't look comfortable, I'm like, hey, let's go. Like, we can leave now. Same thing within school, because I know that, like I said, molestation can come from children as well.
Mm-hmm.
That I teach them, like, about no touching. Like, I'm
Wonders.
very, yeah, like, this is probably a weekly conversation I have with
Mm-hmm.
them, because I want them to keep it in the back of their mind that even if it's somebody you trust, even if it's a schoolmate, even if it's school faculty, whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately in this world, not everybody is safe.
Mm-mm.
But I want them to have the voice to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest thing, is like, for my children, no matter what, I'm like, I need you to have a voice. I don't want you to be afraid of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you got to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can deal with the rest later. So I have become such a huge mama bear that I kind of have to reel myself back in. I'm like, don't need to turn it off, because like sometimes I'll be like, these little kids out here, like, even if somebody just like mean to my kid, I'm like, no, we're not about to do that. But I have to learn that they're kids, because I'm adults, and so I'm in therapy still, working on me. I have to learn that not everything is projected as a threat, and that's a big thing that I have to remember sometimes, is if somebody's kind to me, I'm like, what's your intentions? So I'm still, know what I mean? Like, I'm still very suspicious. Like, you're starting off nice, because they all start off nice. And then, boom.
They give you the candy first, and then
yes.
when you hook, so they get you.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I've been asked out a lot of times, and right now I'm like, I'm still healing. I'm loving myself. I'm doing me. I've been divorced 2 times. I've been married from 18 to, I'd say, probably my early 30s. Like, I think 2019 is when I got divorced from my second marriage. I'm good right now.
So what happened on your second marriage? Was it also abusive, or was it
different? So he drank a lot. He was a Marine. And there was an incident where I lost my young sister in a car crash. And we went to one of her favorite bars to kind of celebrate her. It was just me and a bunch of people. Now, knowing how my family is, they will smoke and drink when they mourn. I was never that way. So I was literally sober, and when people would give me shots and stuff like that, and everybody would take it, I would literally put it back down. I would walk away with it and put it back to the because I'm like, I didn't want to drink. I don't want to soothe that way. I just wanted to think about the times me and her were there, enjoying ourselves, and call it a night. Well, he was drunk with everybody else, and he was telling everybody I was drunk, and I'm like, I'm not, but okay. And he took my keys. He's like, you're not driving home, and this, and I'm like, I'm perfectly fine. You're not okay to drive. Well, we got into it. Unfortunately, it was a physical altercation in front of this bar, and I ended up running to my dad's, because my dad lived a couple blocks away. And from there, I cooled down, and then my dad took me home. Well, my second husband was there, and I'm like, how did you get here? I don't see your car. And he was like, I took a cab. And I'm like, so you took a cab because you knew you were intoxicated, but you took my keys. And I'm completely sober. And I was like, so I was in the house. I'm like, give me my keys. And he wouldn't give them to me still. And it almost got very physical. Like, my dad is a big man. My dad is 6'4", 300-pound man, could barely contain me, because I was like that much enraged, and it was just not a good situation. And he and I had actually been friends for so many years. I mean, since like grade school. But the difference is that grade school crush is not how you are as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think that was our perception of it. I did not want to get married either time. But I was kind of what I call pressured into it. I'm not saying that as a good excuse, but I felt pressure from certain relatives, because they were like, he worships the ground you walk on. He's a sweet guy. You should marry him. And I'm like, okay. And I did, and I was miserable. I never wanted to get married, but having my son and being a single mom, and they were like, you should be together. You guys have a kid, and this and this. And I'm like, okay.
No second baby.
Yeah, and then I got my second one, and I'm like, okay, thinking the baby's gonna fix things. I was still mentally not there, healthy wise, and it was a mistake from the very beginning, and I tried to force it to work, and it just wasn't gonna work.
Yeah, and when you said you were pressured, and I know you said that is not an excuse, I feel like that is an actual excuse in life, because people have this standard or how it should look like, right? Like, you should be married by this, you should have babies, you should do this, you should do this. And some people will be like, I don't want to have kids, guess what? You don't have to have kids. And even when somebody is perceived good for you,
Yes.
you are the only person that truly knows what you need and what you
Mhm.
want at the moment. And I feel like people should lay down, should they? Let people make their own decisions when they're ready to do, because that pressure, it does work, because it has worked on me before in a previous relationship where somebody was like, "Oh, you want to be." I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
I don't."
I get
But I
that.
found myself in this relationship that lasted 1 month, and it lasted 1 month for a reason, because from the go, I was not for it. And that is what circumstances happen. Like, people pressure you into the society standards that this is how you should be. If somebody's buying you a car, if somebody's paying the
Yeah.
bills, he's a good man, he's a good wife. You should stay with them. If you have a kid, you should stay in the relationship.
Yes.
And that is not true.
Yeah.
That is not true. And so, how did you then decide to now be on this new journey of being a speaker, of sharing your story? Because this is not easy.
I
I
like it
wouldn't tell you
easy.
I wouldn't tell you my dirty secrets, but I know this is not easy, because it's painful to you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're in your healing journey, but it's not something that it's not a word, you know.
Right.
It's not an award. But you thought to yourself and you said, I want to share my story. How did that happen? How did that come to happen for you?
I want to help people.
Mhm.
That's what it is like with my business. It's like, yes, I want to support my family, but it's like I love helping people. And I remember feeling so alone, whether it was as a child or was in both of my marriages. Like I just felt like I had no one to understand me. And there was a challenge. I took a speaking class, and one of the challenges were you get out there on live, you excuse me, Sarah, you share a story, and I started just talking about what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was uncomfortable and I was feeling embarrassed, and I'm like, oh, what are people going to think of me? I was just like, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're going to love me or you're going to hate me.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I shared, the more people shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, excuse me, I'm like, this is really helping people.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping people realize that they're not alone either. And that's, not to say that I was the only one that ever got molested as a child or anything, but because I didn't know anybody else that
Mm-hmm.
experienced those things, I really felt by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized how much I was touching people's lives and helping them get the courage to start having a voice, then it's like, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, this is it. Because it's like that feeling of just, like, I'll have a girlfriend and she'll call me and she was in an abusive relationship and she's like, don't tell anyone. And that's what I'll say. So I was like, don't tell anyone. I was like, I'm not. But it's like, with her husband, I don't treat him any different. And I think that's what also makes me different with the public is that when they share with me a story and then I meet their partner, I don't treat their partner like a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still respectful. I'm still cordial. Like, because it's like, I get it. You know what I mean? And then having someone like me throw heat to the fire, that can definitely make a situation way more dangerous than it needs to be. And that's not my place to be rude to him. Only God can judge, not me. So that's not.
I will.
So I mean, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, well, I appreciate that, and so for them to allow me to come into the world, then I continue to share with them, and I've done so much healing. Like I started therapy in 2013, still on that journey of healing, and through that, it's given me so much confidence to be able to speak. So I'm able to speak now without crying. I'm able to speak now without being triggered. I'm able to speak now and not feel embarrassed and ashamed. I'm just like, I am woman, hear me roar. Yeah, like I am right here. And it's like there's so many women and children that unfortunately are abused more than men statistically. And so it's like I want to share with them like there's one person. That's all you need. Because in my first marriage, that's all I had was my one friend. Yeah, that's all I had.
Shout out to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. My work might be. Just like without her, I honestly would not be here today. I really believe that.
Yeah, and so I know one of the other biggest things that people don't recognize as part of the abuse process is the financial abuse.
Yes.
Right? And you being a financial advisor. She's a financial coach, and she's
Mhm.
also doing the speaking of healing and hope. And did you call it again?
Hope, healing ourselves, and pursuing excellence.
Yeah, and pursuing excellence. And so most people fall into victim because of financial status, because
Yes.
you feel like you don't have a way out. And so how do those both worlds meet?
I was like that in my second marriage.
Mhm.
We had filed bankruptcy,
Mhm.
and I honestly felt stuck. I'm like, how am I going to divorce him and take care of two children?
Mhm.
And I had no clue how I was going to do it. And it was literally what they call a leap of faith, because um, he sat on the divorce papers for 3 weeks because he didn't want to get divorced.
Mhm.
And I remember saying that I hated him. I remember having a phone call. I was like, oh, I hate you. Like, why can't you just let me go? This is not going to work. He ended up moving to Colorado, and he got remarried.
Oh.
and he's married her. And so it's like, when something better seems to come along, they'll always sway that way. And it's like, I've actually been in a better financial situation without him than being in the debt that I was with him. And it was just weird, because I was like, I felt in my marriage, because I was so broken, I didn't manage money. We were in debt. It was just crazy. Just financially, it was just nuts, because I'm like, how did I even get myself there? But because of my mentality, I was so broken and stuck. I was depressed. And when I realized that I had a thought of not wanting to wake up, and I had two small children, I started crying. I'm like, this is not the mentality I want. And so that's when I realized, like, I need to put my big girl panties on and let's start making things happen. And I did. And so now it's like a whole nother story financially. I'm doing well. Like, I'm paying all my bills. My bills are paid on time. My bills are paid. And it's going well.
Are paid.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And so tell us about this part of your business, about the financial part of your business.
So since 2008, when I lived in Vegas, like, at that point, I was helping a lot of my neighbors, which were Latinos, with like budgeting. A lot of times it was like a big thing, like nobody had any money, people were getting checks. Where is it at? And so I would just help them like budget out like what their bills were and how much they can keep, because back then a lot of Latinos had everything cash and money was in shoe boxes. Nobody actually had a bank account. Everybody was, at least on the West Coast, everybody was just cashing their checks. And so when it came to a point that I was helping my mother-in-law, and then she would tell her friends what the help I was giving her, and it kind of just snowballed from there. And then from there, then I helped them with debt. And I also I went to UNLV, which is the University of Las Vegas, and I was majoring in law, and I minored in business management. And there I also learned more about debt and credit, and I'm like, I like this. I would just tell people naturally what I was learning, and they were like, "Oh, well, can you help me with that?" Because I was just excited. So I was like, I like it. So let me tell you what I learned, and it just kind of grew from there. And I just started like helping people, and I'm always just, interestingly enough, as thick as my skin can be and how rough I can appear on the outside to a lot of people, I'm very soft.
You are soft.
I'm very soft. I am, like, I'm not aggressive.
What's rough?
Right? So it's like, but if you give me that, I'm like, I'm a whole other person. But it's like, I love helping people. So it's like, my life that I lived didn't define me. And so with my business, there's a lot of people that are in debt. Like, this whole nation is in debt, whether it's credit cards, personal loans, bank loans, school loans. That has been a thing even in elections, talking about school loans. And so I'm like, people really want to get out of it. And my thing is I don't need to charge you thousands of dollars to get out of debt. Because that, to me, makes the situation more stressful.
It's redundancy, right?
Right. Because you're like, how can I afford help when I'm in the situation? So with me, I literally made my prices very affordable. And it's monthly. It's not like a sitting down contract where you're with me 3 to 6 months, a year. We're going to take it monthly, because everyone's situation changes. Right. It's like whether you've got kids, or you're in a new relationship, or you're no longer in a relationship, like, things just change all the time. And so it's like, I want to make it to the point that I'm here to help you. That's more of what makes me have fun. I love numbers. I'm a nerd. I'll admit it. I love math.
I'll send mine your way.
It's like, so when to me, it's like, it's a fun problem. It's like, okay, they're in debt and they need a budget, or they need help with their credit repair. They want to buy a home. And that's so much fun when I see these younger people wanting to buy homes, and they're like, what do I need to get into a home? I'm like, there's your independence. You know what I mean? Being able to buy something for yourself. You don't have to worry about a mortgage, or well, it's a mortgage, but you don't have to worry about like rent and then all this hoopla that comes with it. And so that to me just became a passion. I'll shout out another friend, Matt Maciel. He told me about being credit repair, because at first, like, there would be clients and they would come in for credit repair, and I was just like, no, I don't really do that. But then he was just like, you need to look into it. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I did. I looked into it, went to school for it. It got licensed and everything, and I'm like, I like this. This is actually really fun. And it just kind of became my thing. So like my main bread and butter is, whether it's budgeting, debt management, or credit repair, that's what I do.
Call Cleo.
Yeah. Let me help you. I love that.
Because personally, I am not disciplined with my finances. And don't ask me to go to a mall with a card, because I'll use it. I'll swipe it. What do you need to be swiped? And so I feel like people like you are very handy and they help you know. When you have direction, it's a little bit better when you know what you're supposed to do, as opposed to just swiping everything you like and you want.
Yeah.
And
and it's still controlled with some type of emotional connection. And that's one thing I've learned. If I can share this real quick, I had a client, she would shop so much, and we would talk about her overspending, and we'd have an action plan. Then she'd come back, we'd have like weekly, and she's like, I just can't stop. So when I put the money aside and I just started asking her questions about how she feels when she shops, or what is she going to buy, we came to the understanding, or I came to the understanding, that her and her dad, before he passed away, they would just go to the mall together every week when he got paid, and they would just get something. Yeah. So when she lost him, she just started over shopping because she wanted something to hold on to that reminded her of her and her dad. So sometimes when it comes to finances, if you're depressed or if there's a loss, like a lot of times how we deal with money sometimes can have an attachment to something else. And so that's why I also got certified as a life coach, because it's like there's more to it sometimes than just spending money. It's like, what mentality are we in when we're doing it, or when it comes about? And that's something I had to learn as well. So I'm very big on educating myself. And so I
feel like I'm getting free education right now. How much should I pay?
So it's like, I love it. And it starts with budgeting, because it's like, I refuse. Like, I'll tell my kids flat out, I don't have it. I do have it, but I'm like, I don't want my bank account to be less than a certain amount. So then I'll tell them I don't have it. And they'll be like, but I see this in the account. Yes. But I don't have it. Yeah.
I always tell my son, I don't have the money for that.
Yes.
For that specific thing you're asking for, I don't have the money for that. Like, Mommy, but you have a lot of dollars. I'm like, yeah, a lot of dollars for something else, but not for that.
Yes.
But I'm not a life coach, so that is just my street price. But,
that's still good to me.
I need to pay Cleo to come and do some of mine too.
I love it. I love it. I'm sorry. I love it. I love helping people. Like, that just makes me feel good. That makes me feel really good.
Yeah, and you're helping people holistically. Like, now you're teaching them what the problem is. Now you're helping them with their money, and you're also helping them with the emotional stuff. Like, that is amazing. That is whole package.
Thank you.
We can adopt you now. But do you have anything for the people of KC? Do you want to share something with the people of KC?
KCUMO is a large area, Kansas City, Missouri. I feel like it's one big melting pot, to be very honest. Like, it's like we're just
Greater Kansas City.
Yes. And it's like, Miss Linda here is a great resource. So whether or not you're looking for anybody in real estate or anybody in architecture, I've seen you. Oh my goodness, you dealt with a lot, like brokers. You dealt with home buyers. Like, you deal with a lot of people in KC. So I would definitely say, if you have any kind of need, definitely reach out to Miss Linda. She can connect you. She is a great networker, and she will definitely get you whatever assistance you're looking for, whether it be like you need help roofing, you need help with your kids, you need help, like,
no, with your kids. Don't drop off your kids. No.
I was like, if that's the case, I'll give you my too. Like, I need to take a nap. But you just have great resources of people that that can help. And so I'm like, yes, Miss Linda.
No,
I love
it. I'm feeling like crying again. I'm a crybaby, but thank you, Cleo. And that is all from today from us. And yeah, Kansas City, that was Cleo. And as you've listened to the story, she's amazing. She's really amazing. I love listening to her. I have watched her lives. If you haven't been, go to her Facebook likes. I'll tag her lives down there. And this is It's My Home KC. Until next time, see you. Ciao.
Right.